record to this computer. All right. But as I was saying, guys, we good morning to everybody. I'm glad you're on board with us. We got a really, really good day for you guys. I've been excited like all week, y'all, for real, like a kid. And but before we get to what we got going, I want to congratulate Marcus Gray. Y'all, Marcus Gray said he graduated early. My man. All right. All right. Nice.
Congrats.
And Miles is not on. He's having computer issues right now, but Miles is also graduating early as well. So
congrats
to them brothers.
Yes.
Man, that's
Congrats, brothers. Congrats.
That's good stuff, guys. That is really good stuff. Matter of fact, I didn't even graduate, man. But I got out of school, man, third grade. I'm just kidding. I congratulate you guys. That's good stuff, man. That is good stuff. So, guys, check it. We got a full day today. All right. I'm going to incorporate some breaks. There's Miles. I'm going to incorporate some breaks into what we're doing today, only because we're going to go a full day. We won't be meeting again for almost a month, but real good stuff in the first hour. Brother, you see the name there, Brother Sean Holland. He's a pastor and a community activist in my city, my hometown, Lansing, Michigan, and he's like the lone voice in the city fighting against racial inequality and racism and all. I mean, the brother, when you hear him, you'll understand. He's like the one. Most people are scared and won't back and fight, but he's almost in a fight by himself. And I'm sure that Brother Wilmot can relate to that. I'm reading his bio. He was like that back in the 60s, an activist. So Brother Sean's going to go first. We'll take a short break after he's done, and then Brother Kelvin Wilmot is going to join us. You see his name there. He's y'all know about him. He's joined us. He's a director of Black Klansman, but you'll see a lot of that here. But he's a very special guest today, guys. And then I got something real special. I've been working on getting something from Senator Clyburn. Are y'all familiar with Senator James Clyburn? No?
Honest with you, I'm not.
Who is mentor or mentee?
Yeah.
Brother Daniels. Who was that? That was Brother Daniels and Brother was that Sullivan? Who was it? Brother Cal.
Yep.
Educate them brothers real quick on who Brother Clyburn is. And just to let y'all know, he sent us a special 10-minute video addressed to the members and the mentees of the 100 Black Men of Charlotte. And he's from South Carolina. But anyway, go ahead, Brother Calvin. Just real quick, tell him who this brother really is.
Okay, Clyburn is a representative from South Carolina. He's the one that single-handedly endorsed Joe Biden, put him on the map and on the road to the president-elect that he is today. So Clyburn is a powerhouse right under Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer in Congress.
Yeah, very powerful brother, guys. Somebody that he's gonna speak to. So I encourage you to get notepads and take notes, especially when Brother Holland starts. And also when Brother Wilmot is talking, and then Brother Clyburn, he's gonna come on after we hear from Brother Wilmot, and then right after Brother Mr. Clyburn, our brother Mr. Roll, Dr. Roll is gonna be back on. But we brought back Relate, you guys. If y'all remember Relate. I had a conversation with the junior vice presidents, and one of the things that they mentioned was having Relate again. So we planned Relate pretty much every other session. And for those of you who are new to us, Relate is where me and other members and mentors, we just get in front of you guys and we tell our stories. We become very transparent and we tell you the good, the bad, the ugly, but to show you that you can make it and do it. But we want you to understand that we've been through what you're going through. And many of us have experienced what you experienced or will experience. And so we just open up so that you can relate to us. So Brother Rose coming on, he used to play for Notre Dame. Back in the day, he was on his way to the NFL, took an injury, but then he had his plan A go into effect. Notice I did say plan A. He's a maxillofacial surgeon. Y'all remember him from last week. So he's gonna come on with his brother, Butch, and his cousin Antrell Smart and Myron, all current and former NFL players. So this is going to be a good day, guys. So get your notepads ready. And without any delay, it's 9:41. Brother Sean Holland, if you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit more than what I did. Just kind of tell us a little bit of your background, and you have the floor, and you are co-hosted right now.
All right, let's see if I can share my screen. I think I'm ready.
Yeah, I made you the co-host.
That's good. Before I share my screen, guys, I want to thank the organizers, all the mentors, and all the mentees for this amazing opportunity. My name again is Sean Holland. I'm a native of Jacksonville, Florida. I'm from Duval County. Don't mess with me, brother. I'm from Duval. I graduated with a baccalaureate degree in political science and public administration from Florida A&M University, the Rattlers, Duval, and went on and got a master's in leadership from Cornerstone University, and I received a great honor from the United Nations and ECOSA, which works with very important nations around the world. They honored me with an honorary doctorate a couple years ago. Our city, we have about 68 dialects that are spoken in our school district. We receive so many refugees from around the world. We have a very diverse group. And so what we've done is to help resettle those refugees. And obviously, many of them are African. And so they're our brothers and our sisters and our moms and our dad. But this today is not about me. I want to share some things with you today that I think will really impact you. And Brother DeVal here, he'll have my email address if you got some other questions. But I left Florida A&M, moved to Michigan. I was going to law school. The railroad hired me and told me I could not work in a support function without supporting and understanding the core business. So I was able to work for many Fortune 500 companies, and for the last probably 18 years I have run and created many mentorship programs. At one time, DeVal, we were on 7 different college campuses mentoring our brothers and our sisters. But listen, let's get started. I only have about 30 minutes, so I'm going to share my screen and then we're going to get to rocking and rolling here. Now, what I'd like to do is I want you to fill up the comments section here when I get this going. I got my presenter view, and let's see here. All right, so let me customize this view here. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so listen, let me tell you this right here. We've come into a decade of destiny and innovation. We are telling everybody around the country that those who create are winners. And I want you guys to write this down. Those who create will be winners in the future. Now, there are things that the nations, this is how the nations operate. If you can't defend what you have, you don't deserve to have it. This is how the nations operate. And so we can get in all this. But if you can't defend what you have, you don't deserve to have it. So we've come into a very critical moment in history, and here's the reason why I'm calling it the decade of innovation. It's because when we look at 2043, I want you to write this number down. I want everyone on here, I want you to do a little math. How old will you be in the year 2043? How old will you be in the year 2043? I want you to put it in the comments section, DeVal, so that we can really look at what our challenges are going to be. 2043 is the year. Now, they created a thing called minority. That's something that is a lie. If you are on this call and you are of African descent, you are in the majority. America is only 14% of the world's population, which means that the entire world's population is more black and brown. But in America, they created this category to make people think that they were lesser. They created a category called minority, which is not true. You're actually in the majority. Now, 2043 is the year that the nations know, especially the American leaders know, that America will no longer be a white nation. It will be a nation that will be a black and brown nation. So the mass scramble that they're doing right now is to try to make sure that when they no longer have the concept that we are in power, that we still have legal power. economic power, educational power. So this is not a magical number. This is a number we know that across the globe, that what we call warm climate cultures are having more babies, and the world is awakening to who they are. Now, so in 2043, how old will you be? How old? Let me check this comment section because I got a long way to go. Bro, it's 39, 39, 38, 38. All right, 38, 40. Keep filling up this comment section. This is very important. I want you to write this down. Write this down. In your 20s, when you get to your 20s, 20 to 30, they say that is the phase of your life where you have a glimpse of your purpose. In your 20s, that is the phase of your life where you have a glimpse of your purpose. You're not real sure, but you have a great idea of what you're supposed to do with your life. In your 30s, that's when whatever you're doing in your 30s, it's all about building integrity and character. In your 30s, it's about building integrity and character. So whatever you're doing, it's about building integrity and character in your 30s. In your 40s, that's when they say you begin to live in the minor assignment of your life. And it's not until you reach your mid-50s that you begin to walk in what we call major assignment of your life. Most people are never taught about what we call ultimate purpose, which happens in your 70s. Because in America, they teach you that you're dead after 60. And so what we want to do is we want to say to this morning that you are going to be in your 30s. You are going to be leading this nation in every facet of our society. And I need you to prepare yourself. That's why I'm pumped up about what we're doing. That's why I'm pumped up, because I'm almost 50 years old, which means I'm going to be way down the road. You understand, right? So I'm going to be in my late 60s, right? So you are going to be leading. I need you to get that in your mind, that you are going to be leading corporations. You're going to be leading governments, states. You're going to be leading in every aspect. You're going to be inventing new products and new ideas. If you're on here, every last one of you should learn how to code. Every last one of you should take a coding class, hands down. So again, this is the decade of innovation. What this program is about, and what my speech and my sharing with you today is about, is activating you to become a leader. Now, here's the thing. I want you to also take a picture of my screen. Take a picture of my screen. If it's cut off, you let me know. But you need to take a picture of my screen. Now, if you want to make a difference in the world and in your life, here is the secret formula. Leadership potential is activated whenever a person's organization strengths overlap with the needs of a given situation. Just being passionate about something is not good enough. You got to make sure that you build specific strengths that overlap into a situation that you want to transform and change in the world. Did y'all hear what I'm saying? Give me a thumbs up on your screen if you heard what I just said. Most people are passionate about something, and that's it. The people who make a change and become wealthy and become change and world dominators are the people who develop a specific or a set of strengths that overlap into a situation. So the question becomes, there's two questions that I want you to continue to work on. Number one, what are your specific strengths that you have or you want to build? So I knew that I wanted to run a city. I knew I wanted to run a courthouse. I wanted to run a state. I knew I wanted to be a senator or a representative. I knew I was on that track. So I went to college and I chose a major that would help build that strength. Political science and public administration. I didn't want an MBA. I wanted a MPA. I wanted public administration, which teaches you how to run governments, or what we call in the public sector, how to run organizations in the public sector. Now, so what are your strengths? And then number two, what is the situation that you're so passionate about, that you dream about, that you want to change? What is the situation? Is it injustice? Just being mad is not gonna help nobody. You gotta learn how to write policy. You gotta learn how to negotiate. You gotta learn how to debate. You gotta learn how to have relationships, build them and maintain them and grow them and all those kind of things. So what is your strength? And excuse me if I'm talking loud, Deval. I just get pumped up about this kind of stuff.
You're good. Do your thing.
So what is your strength? What are your strengths? And then what is the situation or situations that you seek to transform? I'm looking on this thing here, and I'm looking, and most of the guys on here gonna be in their 30s. Y'all gonna be rocking. Y'all gonna be rocking. You're gonna be making changes. Now, so what I want to do now is engage you in a conversation that I'm calling the Black Panther series. Now, the Black Panther series. I want you to put in the comment section, I want you to list 2 things that you're good at. 2 things that you're good at. 2 things that you're good at. 2 strengths that you have. If you're going to create and innovate, you cannot be ashamed to say what you're good at.
That's right.
So I want you to put it in the comment section. Step on out and be confident. Let's be a man. Let's call it out what it is. You say you're a wide receiver, come on, I'm gonna throw the ball. Let's see if you catch it. All right, we got math, 2K, math and problem solving, absolutely. Statistics and coding, math, science, basketball, fill it up. Drums and math, talking about sports and playing Fortnite. That's awesome. Writing a story, English, trombone, fill up this comment section. Now, 2043, what they're saying is that black and brown kids are not going to be prepared to be in the front of the line. But on this morning, I'm saying with all these mentors on here that you meet with on Saturdays, you will be the millionaires and the billionaires of this generation. So I want to ask you this question. When you look at what you're good at, how can you take the things that you're good at, your strengths, go back to the slide, and what is the situation that you want to change with that skill? Don't just be no basketball player. You understand? Don't just play ball. If you bouncing on the court, have a reason why you handling the rock. Like, be up on it for a reason, not just to be famous. What's the situation that you want to change with the gift that you have? Now, I want you to put in the comment section again, what do you like about Black Panther? It really was the second black superhero. Falcon was the first one in the 60s that came out in the comics. But for most of us, Black Panther was the first, but it really was the second. I want to say to you that your life matters. As a young man, let's walk through this. Let's walk through this. I want you to put in the comment section, what do you like about Black Panther? The story, the setting it was powerful, absolutely. So let's walk through this. I'm running out of time already, but that's all right. Check this out. I asked my 13-year-old son, I said, I want you to model, this is like what I would call the perfect man. These are benchmarks. These are goals. These are the things we want to pattern our life after. We want to be, and I want you to know that we are kings, and many of you are the sons of a king, which make you a prince. They found a book, Deval. They found a book that somebody in my family wrote that was a slave. Somebody taught him how to write at the master's house, and he wrote a book and began to put names down. I wish I had time to talk to y'all. Your people were not slaves. All right. Your people were not slaves. We come from the bloodline of kings and queens, the Candacean dynasty, and major dynasties that date all the way back to what we call antiquity. They said that our people, Akeem was the first one off the ship that became the father of our folk that was dropped off in Live Oak, Florida, along the East Coast. They said that Akeem, that we are from the Bantu tribe, and we were, my great Akeem was a tribal king. And so when you look at my sister, world-renowned model, that there's a destiny, there's a calling inside of every black male. There's something inside of you that the world wants to squash. So I want you to hear me say this, that you are the descendants, not of just slaves. We were enslaved, but we were not slaves. Get that out of your mind. Get that out of your mind. Once you break free of that, you're going to do some big things. We were enslaved, but we were not slaves. We was not slaves in Africa. Some of us were prisoners of war. And newsflash, there were black folk in America before the first slave ship arrived. Okay, that's another discussion about. We're going to leave that alone.
All right.
I want you to say this also, that you cannot survive on your own. You got to learn to be a brother. If you look at my screen behind me, I am the state coordinator for President Obama's My Brother's Keeper. You see that MBK? Y'all see that? You cannot be successful on your own. You need other brothers around you. And I want to say that this is the one thing about Black Panther that really stuck out to me. And then, so again, relationships. The first one is understand who you are and where you come from. Be a brother. Be a brother. Be a brother to your sisters. Be a brother to other brothers. Be a brother. And then know what your special abilities are. His armor. Everything would bounce off of him, but he was not indestructible. The reason why you have key relationships and you insulate yourself with strong men, like that's on this call, like Reggie Grant, and all these folks that's sitting up on this call, right? Mr. Cook, Mr. Moore. The reason why you want to take advantage of them is because they help you from becoming eliminated. And so you got to know what your abilities are. What's your armor, right? What is your armor? And know that as a young man, you can be defeated. So you want to make sure you got your boys with you, the right boys. Number 2, your strengths. Be confident. Know your history. Don't anybody tell you what your history is. Know your history. Have a fight down, have a dog down inside of you. The only time a man should listen to no is when a woman tells you no. That's emphatic, hands down, it's done. If a girl tell you no, it's freaking no. There ain't no negotiating. It's no. That means stop, drop, and roll. But any other time when somebody on these streets tell you no, that's only a hurdle for you to get to the next level. I don't listen to what the bank say, Mr. Holland, you don't have this and have that. I don't listen to none of that stuff. I just jump right over that and do something else. So when they tell you no, you can't get into this school, I failed my SAT to get into college. You know what I did? I hired an 11th grade Korean to teach me math. And my math score jumped something like 300 points, got into school. Don't you let a letter, don't you let somebody tell you what, don't you let anybody tell you, gonna tell me what I can do. But again, that's having that fight inside of you. And then wisdom. Always have somebody who's older than you that you don't lie to, that you tell the 100% truth to. That's wisdom, so you can get that wisdom. Don't be young, and just because you're young, just be a fool. Be a young, wise young man. You understand? My son, I got 4 kids. One of them graduated from Florida A&M. The other one getting ready to graduate with a double major on scholarship, Michigan State. And I got a 13 and a 9-year-old. If I tell my son, if you sit and you listen to what I'm saying, you're going to be successful. Don't question it. Just listen. And guess what? He going on doing his own thing. And then last but not least, he believed in doing what is right for his people. Always have, let me plug my computer about to die. Always think about your people when you're making decisions. Don't make decisions just about you. So now what I like for you to do now is, what did I leave off of here? I hear now Chadwick Boseman, good plot twist, story was nice. What about Black Panther was just so powerful? What part of his strengths did you like? What about the technology? Put that in, because I see here advanced tech. I like that. T'Challa. And I want y'all to know this too. Write this down. Black Panther was not a myth. Vibranium is not a myth. It's real. There are 8 materials that they won't put on the periodic chart in school to teach you. There are 8 other minerals that's not on the periodic chart. Let me see. Somebody say something to me, because I got to see what's going on out here. What you're learning in school is not the full. That periodic chart with the cobalt and the calcium and the H2O, the oxygen and all that kind of stuff, there are other minerals that they don't include on the periodic chart. Guess where they at? They in Africa. So you need to understand that when Hollywood is talking to you, a lot of times they're trying to communicate something on the DL. Now, let's move on. We told you that creators will be winners. How much time I got? Creators.
You got till 10:30, and that includes Q&A.
Okay. So I want to walk through something. I want to reiterate. I want you to write these folks down. You come from a long line of Black Panthers. You got this great king of Mali, Mansa Musa. He ruled the Mali Empire. This man was amazing. The Mali Empire, obviously in West Africa, from 1312 all the way to 1330 C, 1330 C, what we call before the Common Era, and the Common Era. And he controlled territories that was rich in gold and copper, and just monopolizing trade. He had an elite wealth. He made the cities of Timbuktu, and he was such an amazing ruler that his fame grew all throughout Europe. We Africans ruled Europe and Asia and China. You understand? And so I want to just highlight a couple of Black Panthers for you to do some further research. He was so wealthy and gave away so much gold. These rappers ain't the first one to have bling. You understand what I'm saying? They're not the first one to walk around with bling and being iced out. No, that's in your blood. This guy right here gave away so much gold that he tanked the gold market by 20%. It took years for gold to recover because he was so wealthy that he gave away. There are recorded African dynasties and empires that lived in peace, that they didn't have police departments, they didn't have military, because they were societies of peace, the way they ruled and the way they governed themselves. So don't let nobody tell you that you can't run a nation, that you can't run a city, that you can't run a state, that you can't run your neighborhood. Don't let nobody tell you that. We were running nations before anybody else. The ability to be a Black Panther is inside of you. Look at David Jacobs that's on this call. Look at all these great men that are on this call. You understand? Phil Harris and all these folks. These men have stories. And so I wanted to pause right here, and I want you to get this in your mind. We were the first ones to develop cosmetics, shampoo, perfume. You're not hearing what I'm saying. A skin cream. We were the first ones to develop electricity. They said they had electricity thousands of years ago. We were the first ones to create music. You understand? And the way the staff is written and the chordal structure. You have a DNA of creativity. You have it inside of you.
That's right.
Here's what we need. Now, last time I was at the White House, we had a real good conversation. I want to just throw this out here right now because I don't know who I got on, but I ain't scared. I don't really care. So we at the White House, Connor Austin, we at the White House, right, dog? We at the White House. You walk in, the Secret Service, they swipe your card, they nod, they say, look, don't take no pictures because we know we got cameras. I look around, I ain't see no cameras, but they say they know. We get up in there. I want y'all to hear what I'm saying. We get up in there and we start talking about the United States economy. They say the president, and we're talking to senior advisors, the president wants to do prison reform. But why are we talking about prison reform in an economic summit? So I'm sitting in the back, I'm the youngest cat in the room. This is what they say. The U.S. economy has grown faster. We have automated the technology, we automated faster than we can grow. We don't have no more bodies. We don't got no more people that want to work. So they say we need to let these brothers out of jail. We need to release people out of prison that's in there on marijuana, bogus charges. Oh, now y'all want to do this? This is what So this is what the president do. They called 400 of the most profitable companies to the White House. This is what they tell them. The United States can't get to the next level without us letting out people that's in prison that shouldn't be in there. We need you to sign an affidavit that says that you will hire and train at the same time. We cannot wait for another generation of trained people, or we're going to be behind China and Russia and India and Asia and all the emerging markets, Brazil. True story. Prison reform was tacked on the back of economic growth. Now, how that make you feel? Because we don't have a mentality that we are rulers. I want to spark this inside of you this morning. If you don't hear nothing else, and I said nothing, if you don't hear nothing else I'm saying, you have a level of greatness that's inside of you that scares the nations. Everywhere on the globe, you see a black man, he changed the culture. He changed the technology. He shifts the entire future. So I want you to hear this. I want you to study Mansa Musa. These rappers out here, come on, man, they fake. A lot of them fake. This real right here. Remember, what are you doing with your strengths to transform a situation? What's the situation? You understand? Now, right here, Toussaint Louverture.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell y'all this right here. I want y'all to look at the screen. I don't care what you're doing. I want you to look at the screen. When they started exporting slaves, when the slave trade was at its height, Haiti and the Caribbean islands was called the Gem of the Antilles. It was the most lucrative business on the globe. It's like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. This is how much money the Caribbean islands made for the European nations. Let me tell you this. What they didn't know was they were bringing in Ghanaian and West African warriors. So in Haiti, in the Caribbean islands, for many years, they never brought in women slaves. They only brought in men. And they worked them so hard in the Haitian plantations that most of the men died before the age of 28. They worked them so hard many of them never made the age of 30. The median age for a Haitian slave was 27 years old. But what they didn't know was that majority of these slaves were trained warriors. Trained warriors. They saw them as only commodities and animals, but they was warriors. And Toussaint Louverture, him and many others, he began to organize because he was a warrior. The other warriors, and guess what they did? They kicked the French behind. They were the first set of plantations to take over and to fight for their freedom. Now, let me tell you what they taught y'all in school. What they taught y'all in school was that America got this thing called the Louisiana Purchase. Who can turn your camera on or go off mute and tell us what they told y'all about the Louisiana Purchase?
That they purchased this amount of land, I think.
That's right.
At the Midwest or something like that. About the middle of the country.
Now, anybody else?
But they doubled the size of the United States.
What else?
School never even talked
There's
about
this
that.
thing called Manifest Destiny, and they said that the Europeans were killing all the people or Native Americans who were in the they thought they were better than everyone else, so when they did that purchase, they thought they were better, so they started doing stuff. I can't remember exactly what they were doing.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Let me tell you what was happening. The black men in Haiti was kicking the French behind, and they could not continue conquering and exploring in the United States. So they sold Louisiana to America so that they could go back to Haiti and fight this guy. The reason why America got the Louisiana Purchase was because the black men in Haiti said, no more. We are not slaves, we are warriors. And they rose up and was kicking the French behind. Let me tell you what. They started rising up. They organized themselves. They won their freedom. And so the French could not continue the expenses of U.S. exploration and then have a war in Haiti. That was like their main cash cow. So what happened was when Toussaint and the rest of the guys won their freedom, check this out, y'all. There was product that was on French ships that was in the Haitian port. The Haitian nation just paid, the French sent them a bill and said, you're going to pay us back for all the stuff that we couldn't export across the world. And Haiti just paid the bill off in the 1960s. And when Toussaint and the rest of the men and all that people, they set up the first democracy in the West. Check this out. Everybody had a vote, even women, white and black. So when they tell you that the United States was the first democracy, that's a lie. It was Haiti. The reason why Haiti is poor today is because the other nations, America, France, Great Britain, England, all of those nations are penalizing Haiti for making them look bad. And then setting up a democracy. That's your history. Are y'all on here?
Oh yeah, good stuff.
All I'm trying to say to you is, don't believe the hype that you're nobody, that you're a marginal person. There is something deep inside of you that I'm putting a clarion call out. When you understand your history, you rise up and you take over. And I'm not talking about, getting killed. I'm talking about strategic. I'm talking about making strategic and making transformation into those situations. These men were warriors and they were governors. They were administrators. They were fathers. And guess what? They fought together as brothers. You need to know what happened. The Haitian Revolution is one of the greatest things that America will not teach you. And that's why Haiti is poor to this day, because they refuse to support Haiti, because Haiti made America and every other European nation look bad. How dare you fight for your fight for your freedom? What makes you think you can be free, dog? We brought you over here. You work for us. They said, nah, you got the wrong one. We warriors. They used their strengths to overlap into a situation and totally broke it. That's why when Haiti have earthquakes and things, notice who come to their aid: the Middle East. And so when the president said that Haiti was a blank hole nation, everybody that know history knew what he was talking about. We know what happened in Haiti. And so he got kids thinking that if you black, you can't be prosperous. That's a lie. Let me move on. If you don't know who Hiram Rebel Rhodes is, you need to know who Hiram Rebel Rhodes. Now listen at this. When the Emancipation Proclamation came in, and many of the slaves in the South were free, many of them didn't have nowhere to go. Guess what we did? The greatest revival undocumented in this country. Those slaves from the North and the South, ex-slaves, built more schools, hospitals, and churches in American history. They won't teach you that. Hiram Rebel Rhodes was the first one that we sent to the U.S. House of Representatives. Look at 1869. 1869. What year was the Emancipation Proclamation? Somebody tell me. You can Google it on your phone. I'm going to pause. I'll wait.
Yep, good stuff.
What year was the Emancipation Proclamation? One of y'all tell me.
Somebody Amari put 1863 in the chat.
1863. Now, so you see now, 6 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, when we get that weight off our back, we automatically move into leadership. We talking about 6 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, and he represented Mississippi. You need to know that we sent 16 other African Americans to the House of Representatives between 1869 and 1880. African Americans served in the Senate, and Hiram Revels was an ordained minister. He also recruited African Americans for the Union Army. He also started a school for freed African Americans in Missouri. He also served as the chaplain of African American regiment in Mississippi, and he stayed in Mississippi, and was elected to the U.S. Senate in 1870. Now, you tell me what kind of brother he had to be. If you go and read anything about Hiram Revels Rose, I had a whole lot of quotes I didn't add in on here, but one of the things he stood up in the 1860s and talked about the injustice of slavery and the discrimination in the Constitution. And because of Hiram Revels Rose, write this down, Hiram Revels Rose and all these people that was elected to go represent us in the House of Representatives, guess what organization was founded to begin to stop this from really happening? Who knows what organization was founded right around this time?
NAACP?
That's a good one. NAACP is early 1900s.
Nicholas Martin said KKK. I'm sorry.
KKK.
He said Jim Crow. Nicholas Martin said Jim Crow. Zion
Right.
Simpson said KKK.
It's the KKK. The Ku Klux Klan was founded around this time because we were moving. Anytime we know who we are and we start mobilizing ourselves and sticking together, we start moving in the leadership and making change. And they said, we're not about to have that. And the KKK was formed. They started terrorizing black folks around the South. And guess what happened? After that 1880, it was 30 years before we sent somebody else to Congress. Because the terrorism, the hangings, and all the things that we went through was so horrific. And the voter suppression. I want to take a hard pause. What are you hearing me say at this very moment? Up until this point, what are some reactions?
Hey, Sean, Cal Simmons, real quickly. Do you have screen visuals of Toussaint Rebel Rose? We've got Manna. Do you have other screenshots that you could put up there?
Of these guys?
Yeah.
I
We've got one now.
do another presentation. If you have some, I'll give you where you can show it.
And we got like 13 minutes.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. I was just hoping you had it so I could take a screenshot of it, but that's okay.
Okay, yeah. You can take a screenshot right here. Did you take a screenshot of this one? So you got Toussaint, right? You got Hiram Revels Rose and all his compadres that we sent now to represent districts in the South. Think about that, guys. Think about how difficult it must have been on the heel of Emancipation Proclamation and what they said about us. Then you got people like Marcus Garvey. I know you know about Marcus Garvey, but you need to know more about Marcus Garvey because there's a whole big conversation I can't get into. I'm just trying to highlight Black Panthers on whose shoulders I and you stand on.
And look at the chat too. You got some responses to your question.
Oh, good. Okay. Every time we do something to create something, there are people trying to pull them down. Absolutely. They tried to stop us from being on the same level, even higher. That's exactly right. Jim Crow, KKK. Black history retold with under white history, I believe. Absolutely. What does whitewash mean? Whitewash means that, like if you have something that's black, like hip hop is being whitewashed, they will take it and make it white, like we created it, right? And blot you out of it. And then write in the history books that they created it. So it becomes a whitewashed, what we call a whitewashed or a romanticized history. They say history is his story. That's the reason why you must write, many of you all have to become authors. You have to write books. Many of my mentors are authors, at least 10 of them or more. You have to write. History is his story. So you don't let nobody write your history, right? All right, let's look at Let's look at Homo Plessy. He looked white, but his parents, check this out, Homo Plessy was a free person of color. He was born to a family that came to America from Haiti and France. His parents were French-speaking Creoles. Anybody know anything about Louisiana? The Creoles are still there. They were Haitian refugees who fled during the Revolution. Plessy is where we get Plessy versus Ferguson. This is Homo Plessy. He got on the train, and they wanted him to sit in the black section on the train. Before there was Rosa Parks, there was Homo Plessy. And so Homer decided he's not going to sit in the black section on the train. They had a black car, you know, one a black car, white car, da, da. So he said, I want to sit in the white section, and he sued in the courts and said that because he was, you know, a portion white and a portion black, that he could sit wherever he wanted. And that these separate departments for black and white was not constitutional. But the U.S. Supreme Court in 1896 came back and said that racial segregation under the separate but equal doctrine said that it was constitutional. And so that kicked off a lot of what you all know as the Civil Rights Movement, the NAACP, and we call it the separate but equal doctrine in America. That's where you get Jim Crow and all those things. But look at who Homo Plessy was. Look how he looked, but he was black. Creators are winners are creators. Benjamin Banneker had a keen interest in mechanics and astronomy from a young age. He worked on the family farm and tinkered with in his free time, and he eventually, check this out, developed a clock made of wood when he was 22 years old. This man was so brilliant that he published an almanac. He became an author. An almanac. Somebody Google what an almanac is. A-L-M-A-N-A-C. An almanac. He published an almanac in 1792. The brother was bad. What is an almanac?
I think that's like, I think that's,
Say it again?
I think an almanac is like a series of pamphlets, right?
Mm-hmm. What's in the pamphlet though?
Uh-huh. That was a calendar?
Mm-hmm.
It's a calendar of important dates.
Yeah.
And stats.
Somebody put an annual calendar containing important dates and statistical information such as astronomical data and tide tables.
Yep.
And we got about 5 minutes.
All right, Benjamin Bradley. This guy was amazing. You need to know who Benjamin Bradley was. Even though he was a slave, he worked for the Department of Natural and Experimental Philosophy at the Naval Academy in Maryland, right? And then John Ernst Matzlinger. You need to know who he is, right? Take a picture of the screen. I'm running out of time. What he did was he developed a machine that created efficiency for shoes, to make shoes. And so those of y'all that like tennis shoes and the production of Nikes and stuff, you need to thank Mr. John Ernst. You need to thank him. You need to know who Elijah McCoy is. Elijah McCoy.
They should know Elijah McCoy and Ann Bradley because I taught them this last year.
Okay, Elijah McCoy. You need to know who.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Deval.
Real quick, from one of the mentees. What's really important about McCoy's name? Y'all remember this? There's a phrase. There it goes. Bill Cook, you can't compete, man. You can't do it, Bill Cook. He gave away the answer, the real McCoy.
That's right. That's right. He was so valuable that other railroads wanted his technique, and so they would send other representatives, and they said, no, send us the real McCoy. We want Elijah McCoy. But you need to study his history. He created the ironing board and the sprinkler. Daniel Hale Williams founded the first African-American owned hospital and performed the first successful open heart surgery in the United States. Black man. Now, I'm going to end my time with this. You can take pictures of these screens. I didn't go through him, you know him, but you can take pictures of your screen. Take your phone out. What I like for them to learn is this poem as I end my time. This is something I want as a Black Panther, and you stand in a long line, a succession of Black Panthers. We be on here for 4 or 5 weeks. This is what I teach my sons, and I use this. I do not choose to be a common man. It is my right to be uncommon if I can. I seek opportunity, not security. I do not wish to be a kept citizen, humbled and dulled by having the state to look after me. I want to take the calculated risk to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed. I refuse to barter incentive for a dole. Don't give me no handout. I prefer the challenges of life to the guaranteed existence, the thrill of fulfillment to the state of calm, of utopia. I will not trade freedom for benefits, nor my dignity for a handout. I will never cower before any master, nor bend to any threat. It is my heritage to stand erect, proud, and unafraid, to think and to act for myself, to enjoy the benefit of my creations, and to face the world boldly and say, this, with God's help, I have done. I refuse to be a common man. I'm going to be uncommon because I can. Take a picture of this, memorize it, say it every day.
Unmute yourself, gentlemen, and clap it up.
Deep.
Sean Holland.
Deep.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That was strong.
Wow. Look here, man. Now y'all understand why I wanted him on here, and I'm sure we can probably try to get him back by popular demand. But with the few minutes we got, I want to hear from a few mentees, and maybe a couple mentors. Just a couple, real quick. Give me some reactions. Mentees. Jackson Taylor, what do you think, man? Unmute yourself. Tell me something.
That was really good. There's a lot of people that actually I never heard of, and that and it gave me a lot of attention.
Jeff Wynn.
Why isn't my mic working?
You're good. We can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yes.
All right, sorry, my mic wasn't working. I just found all of that interesting because most of that stuff, well, some of it I did know, but like for instance, like the fact that Black man did the first successful open heart surgery, I never knew that. Like I found a lot of the people that you talked about very interesting, and I definitely want to learn more about them.
Okay, Connor Alston, then Caleb Sidbury, and anybody else after that. Connor.
I found a lot of it very interesting, and I learned a lot of stuff, a lot of new stuff, like who created the first products and stuff.
Caleb Sidbury.
It was very powerful, and I didn't know that stuff, so I was just learning and retaining the information that he put down.
All right, real quick, I'll do these comments in the chat, and then Brother Holland, I'll let you have the last word before we take a quick break. From Phil Harris, excellent presentation, my brother, you nailed it. Jaden Suddeth, who wrote The Common Man? Who wrote
Thomas Paine.
Thomas Paine. All right. Let me see here. Marvin Rose said he's one of the members, mentors. Can we get the presentation deck for reference? All right. James Corp wrote that was powerful. But Brother Holland, go ahead and make final comments. And I first want to say thank you so much for putting that together, man. That was, man. Listen, I heard the brother preach 100 times, and so it's like I feel like I had a treat again. So thank you, man. Boy, yeah, I'm getting text messages and everything about this presentation. Go ahead, Sean.
I want to, as we like transition to a break, I want you to hear me that the world fears what's inside of you. I have traveled to Africa. I have traveled to South America, Croatia. and people will literally stop and look at me because you are a valuable asset to the globe. And I just want to leave that as I traveled around the world and places. When I went to Rome, they just knew because of my dreads that I was a NFL player. They couldn't fathom in their mind that a black man with all his whole family would be in Rome on Christmas. So everywhere I went, they treated me like I was a football player. So guess what I did? I played ball, so you're right. You're right, I'm a football player. Roll the suits out, put them shoes out. All right, throw it out for a brother. You understand? But that's how they think. They think we can't do nothing but play sports. We do that in our sleep. And we do all this other stuff. Man, y'all be blessed. But Deval, I'll see you on the next go round.
Thanks, Brother Holland.
Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to get right into it. Everybody mute your phones, get your notes ready. I got a special introduction that I put together to introduce this brother. So let me just quickly share my screen. And Brother Wilmot, as soon as this is done playing, you have the floor up until like 11:30ish. Let me get to oops, I'm sorry. Let me unshare. Hold on. Share the sound. Share this.
Twitter.com/WinBH.
I'm sorry, guys. Hold on. Everybody mute your phones, please.
Faithful fellow faith player.
All right, hold on. Here we go.
Kevin Wilmot won an Academy Award and the BAFTA, the British Academy Award, for co-writing with Spike Lee, the feature film Black Klansman. This film also won the Grand Prix at the Cannes Film Festival. Kevin Wilmot also co-wrote and is the executive producer of the critically acclaimed film Chirac, also directed by Spike Lee. The film is on numerous Best of 2015 lists, including Best Film and Best Screenplay by the New Yorker magazine. Award-winning films written and directed by Kevin Wilmot include 9th Street, CSA, Confederate States of America, The Battle for Bunker Hill, Jayhawkers, and Destination Planet Negro. Documentaries directed by Kevin Wilmot include From Separate to Equal, The Creation of Truman Medical Center, Gordon Parks Elementary, Fast Break, The Legendary Coach John McClendon, and William Allen White, What's the Matter with Kansas? Kevin Wilmot currently co-wrote with Spike Lee the feature film The Five Bloods. Mr. Wilmot recently co-wrote and directed the feature film The 24th about the Houston riots of 1917. That film was shot right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Kevin Wilmot grew up in Junction City, Kansas, and attended Marymount College, receiving his BA in drama. After graduation, he returned home working as a peace and civil rights activist, fighting for the rights of the poor, creating 2 Catholic workers' shelters for the homeless, and forcing the integration of several long-standing segregated institutions. He attended graduate studies at New York University, Tisch School of Arts, receiving several writing awards, and his MFA in dramatic writing. Kevin Wilmot is a professor in the Media and Film Studies Department at Kansas University. Gentlemen, we present to you Oscar-winning writer and film director, Mr. Kevin Wilmot.
Man, Devon, how much do I owe you for that, man?
Hey, look, you gave me a shout on the 24th. I'm good.
Well, it's wonderful to be with you guys today. This is it's a real honor. It's a really beautiful thing you guys are doing. I grew up in a little small town in Kansas called Junction City. And Junction City was is right next to Fort Riley, Kansas. And Fort Riley is where the Buffalo Soldiers were stationed, the 9th and 10th Cavalry Division. And in my neighborhood were a lot of Buffalo Soldiers. And and they were all over the world, were stationed all over the world, and brought wives home from all over the world, and had kids with these wives. And so my neighborhood, the block I grew up on in Junction City. Now, you guys understand, Junction City is about 20,000 people. The block I grew up on, one block, there was a white family next to us. Across the street was a Black and Japanese family. Next to them was a Black and German family. Next to them was a Black and Korean family. Next to them was a Black and Filipino family. Next to them was a white and Japanese family. Next to them was a Black and Italian family. Next to them was a Black and Korean family. Next to them was a Black and Vietnamese family. And that was just one block in a little small town in Kansas. And the thing that growing up in a neighborhood like that taught me was that race doesn't matter at all, and race matters a great deal. It doesn't matter at all because we're all just kids trying to do our thing. But it matters because race matters because you have to know who you are and you have to love who you are. And you know, one of the things that I kind of show in the Five Bloods is that movie is kind of about that time when Black folks were really, for the first time, really starting to really truly love themselves. And Chadwick Boseman's character, Storm Norman, is this guy that, you know, he is the guy that's really teaching other soldiers, you know, how to love themselves. And it really relates a great deal to, you know, the first presentation, which I thought was really tremendous. You know, a lot of it comes from Black history. And a lot of it comes from knowing where you come from, and you can't really know where you're going if you don't know where you've come from. And Black history was, you know, during that, you know, 60s, early 70s kind of period. That was when really for the first time starting to really get into Black history and kind of learning really to love themselves because of it. And so that was a big part of me growing up. You know, being in a town like that, seeing Black soldiers coming from Vietnam and going to Vietnam. I got to be around these guys and as they were becoming Bloods. And the dap handshakes that everybody did, and all of that was about you know, really loving each other and respecting each other. And as a kid, I walked down the street and these soldiers would say, "Hey, young blood, what's happening?" And they'd give you the fist sign and they teach you the dap handshakes, and it was such a great time because Black people had this bond because of the oppression we were fighting, but also because of this thing we were discovering about ourselves, that we really learned that we were kind of a special people, and that we had a lot to really admire about ourselves. And everybody started wearing their hair long then, you know, the Afro came in. And, all of those were such great signs to the world that Black people had kind of finally come into their own. And I think when I think about that, I put a lot of that into the movie, into Five Bloods, because, you know, when I would reflect back on that today, I see so much of how far we've come, but how far we still have to go with it. And it's such a great reminder of the love that we once had for each other, and the love that I think we still have, but it's become a lot more complicated now. And you know, it is, you know, there's a lot of things that divide us now, and a lot of things that that really have nothing to do with being Black, but just the world divides the world now. and it's hard to kind of find that true appreciation for each other now. And so I hope that one of the things that people get from that film is that really that you know, we once truly kind of loved ourselves, and that thing that we show in the film about how they find this gold and they wanted to give it back. They were going to give it back to Black people. They were going to give this gold. I mean, that was what was going on in the minds of folks at that time. And one of the things we show in the film is that once they find the gold today, the mindset they had back in the late 60s, early 70s, that mindset has changed. And so that's I think, you know, one of the things I kind of want to share today a little bit, that I think we have to kind of rediscover that. We've got to rediscover that appreciation for each other, you know, as well. You know, my story is one that my father, I had really great parents, but they were not, you know, they were not highly educated folks. They didn't have a lot. My father went to the 6th grade. My mother went to the 10th grade. I didn't grow up with education in my home. It wasn't like that. We had a great neighborhood. My parents were really, really hard-working folks. My father in particular was a really hard-working man. He left the house looking one way. He came back looking another way. He was a hod carrier. A hod carrier that's what my film company is named after. A hod carrier is someone who works with the bricklayer, and the hod is the mortar that you use to lay the brick. And my father worked all day carrying the hod to the bricklayer all day, usually going up a ladder all day long, carrying this hod on his back in this trough with the mortar in it. And he belonged to the hod carrier and common laborers union. And a lot of Black men were part of that union. And that union actually still exists today. It's not called that anymore, but that's what it was. And so every building you see back in the days were built like that. This before they had elevators, this before all of that stuff. One thing I should say, my father, this is not my grandfather, my father was born in 1898. My father was 60 when I was born. And so I was raised around older people. And when you're raised around, their friends were older. My mother was in her 40s when I was born as well. When you're raised around older people, you get kind of an appreciation for the past, and you get an appreciation for history. And so even though my parents were not formally educated, my parents gave me an amazing education, because they taught me about what was really important. And that's one of the things. I'm a professor at Kansas University, but education is not necessarily that. Education, when people say education is really important, I think what people are saying about education really is you have to find the thing that educates you to be yourself, to find yourself, to be the person that you want to be. And, you know, I wanted to be a filmmaker from a very early age. And how do you get that? How do you become that? I mean, there was no, at this time, you know, there's no cell phones, there was no video cameras on your phone. There were only video cameras at school, and these were new things in high school. I mean, they were huge, big iron machines with these big reel-to-reel things, and you know, no one had access to this stuff at all. And I remember asking my parents about, you know, trying to find a way for me to get a little 8mm camera. And Steven Spielberg and a lot of my white buddies, they all made films with 8mm cameras when they were kids. I didn't have access to that. So what I did was I wrote plays instead. And one of the things that whole thing taught me is that you cannot You cannot let your limitations stop you from doing anything in life. And what I mean by that is I didn't have access to a camera, so I wrote plays, and you can do a play anywhere. So I would just get my buddies together, I'd write a play, and when I wrote a play, I always knew I would then do that play. I would produce that play. I would make that play happen, and I had to go get guys, and I had to go pick them up, and I had to convince them to do it. And I mean, it wasn't easy, but this is something that I wanted to do, and so I just wanted to do it, and so I didn't take no for an answer. I just kept doing it, and that part of it really. I learned a great deal from that, because you just cannot look for permission in life. You can't look for permission in life. I'll say it one more time. You can't look for permission in life. You have to try to find that thing that you truly love and that you truly want. And then you have to find a way to go do that. And you can't wait for people to say, here it is, here's the door, go right in that room there. You have to find a way. And, so I'm in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. And how do you get from there to winning an Academy Award? And I never moved to LA. Never moved to LA. I'll say it again. I never moved to LA. I live in Lawrence, Kansas right now. And it's the only place in Kansas you want to live. but it's a good town. It's a college town. You want to be around educated folks. You want to be around positive people. And that's the other big lesson I think that I've kind of picked up along the way is stay away from negative people. Try to get around people that want to do something like you want to do. No matter what it is, doesn't matter what it is, just get around some people that want to do what you're trying to do. And more than likely, they will help you do it. If you're serious about it, they'll see that you're serious about it, and they'll join forces with you and try to help you do it. And that was really my story. I mean, that's how I made my first film. I went to NYU, went to New York University, and I was there. I graduated. I had 2 kids at the time, and I was trying to find a way to make my first film. And Spike Lee had just made his big breakthrough film, She's Gotta Have It. One of the things I learned from Spike, I had not met Spike. I saw him. Spike went to NYU too, but he was there a couple years before I was there. I had not really met him. He didn't know me. I didn't know him. But one of the things I learned from him by reading his book and just checking out his story was that he had to get around some people that wanted to help him make his film. And I didn't know anybody in New York. I just knew a couple of people I didn't know anybody. So I decided to go back home and try to make my film back in Kansas, where people knew me and people knew what I was trying to do. And people kind of thought I was crazy for doing that because, who makes movies in Kansas? And so I had to, come to Kansas and find the people that could maybe help me make the film. And so that's why I ended up in Lawrence, Kansas, because Lawrence is close to Kansas City, and there's people in Kansas City that make films, not feature films for the most part, but they made commercials, they made industrial films, and they had cameras. And when I made my first feature film, I had never seen a movie camera up close. But I'd done plays, and I had success with these plays, and I had a lot of confidence with that because those plays were successful, and those plays got me into NYU, into the film school at NYU, and that's where I learned to really write a screenplay. So so much of my kind of experience has been just that, like you go do it and you kind of figure it out the best you can. Another big influence on me, I would say, was Gordon Parks. I don't know if some of you guys probably don't know who Gordon Parks is, but Gordon Parks was the first African-American to direct a studio feature film. And he made a movie called The Learning Tree. And Gordon Parks' story is another great story too. He was from Fort Scott, Kansas, right down the road from where I live right now. And he, you know, he went to, you know, he has a long story, but he found a movie camera. He found a camera, a photography camera, and he decided to kind of, he fell in love with it, and he decided to devote himself to being a photographer. And he's got a book called A Choice of Weapons. And that book is about how he took the camera and he used it as a weapon to fight back racism and to fight back injustice. And so he became one of the top photographers for Life magazine. And his story was very inspiring to me because he was from Kansas, like I lived in Kansas, and first he made The Learning Tree, and then he made the movie Shaft. And when we were in high school, Shaft was the coolest thing on earth. And so of course that was a huge influence as well. So I set out to make my first feature film, and it was based on a play I wrote. It was based about the street in my hometown that was a very notorious street. My parents met on the street. My mother ran a pool hall on the street. It was the red light district in my hometown. And it was something that I grew up hearing them talk about all the time. And it had this big influence on me. And so I wrote this play and turned it into a screenplay. And I set out to make this film, and I had no money. And it took me 9 years to make that film.
Wow.
And people thought I would give up. People thought, you know, and I had a lot of great things that happened in the course of trying to make that film, and a lot of bad things that happened. The great thing that happened was I got Martin Sheen, big movie star. He was in Topeka, Kansas, making a film. I went to him, asked him to be in the film. He read the script. He really loved it. He decided to stay an extra day, and he just gave me a day of being in the film. And then Isaac Hayes, who won the Academy Award for the soundtrack to Shaft, I got a connection with him, and he acted in the film, and he did several songs in the film. So I was just in high cotton thinking, getting both those guys in my film. And that was a big boost for me, and a boost for the movie, and so all the bad things that happened. I don't want to, you know, bore you with all the details of it, but the difficult things that happened, you know, I could hold on to the good things because they were so significant. And so you know, I feel like I've been very fortunate in that sense. I'll tell you kind of how I met Spike. My next film was his movie CSA, Confederate States of America, which I really made that film out of my anger with the Confederate flag. The Confederate flag was flying over the state of South Carolina at the time, over the Capitol there. And of course, you see that, you know, you still see it today, but even more then. I made that film in 2004. You saw Confederate flags on people's cars all over the place. And even in Kansas, you see them a lot. And so I really wanted to make a film that really kind of showed the evil of the Confederacy. And so I made this, you know, it's a faux documentary about what would have happened if the South had won the Civil War. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized the South did win the Civil War. Not on the battlefield, obviously, but they won in their attempt to hold on to their way of life. And one of the best examples is where I live, Kansas. Kansas was a free state. My kids went to Free State High School. Lawrence was where, you know, it was founded by abolitionists. But after the war, Lawrence was segregated. KU, where I teach, was segregated. It's not the the Mississippi Board of Education case that desegregates the school is the Topeka, Kansas Board of Education case. And so people, you know, so in many ways the South did win the war, and they taught the North how to live. We didn't teach the South how to live. We didn't teach the South how to live until Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement, really. What's the worst place Dr. King ever went? Barely got out of their life. The worst place he ever went was really Chicago, Illinois. And you can look at that footage on YouTube of the white mobs that tried to attack him and almost kill him in Chicago. So the North was just as bad as the South, in some ways worse. And so I wanted to make a film that really kind of showed that. And I got into Sundance with that film, and Spike heard about the film and I wanted to see it. He loved the film, and so he wanted to support me. And so that film was presented by Spike Lee, and that's how I met Spike. And he asked me, of course, you know, anytime you get a big opportunity with someone in the industry, he asked me if I had any other scripts, and I did have another script. It was called Gotta Give It Up, and that script became Chirac, which became the first feature film directed by, that was produced by Amazon Studios. So that was one of the other big lessons for me, was that you know, I just tried to find a way to do my thing. You know, I didn't worry about money so much. I found, you know, I got a job teaching at the university, and I was able to take care of my kids and my family that way. But more than anything, I tried to find a way to tell my story. And, you know, Hollywood is not about, you know, trying to help you do your thing. You've got to try to find a way to do your thing, and hopefully you can convince Hollywood that your thing is worth supporting. And so I really was fortunate in the sense that I, even though it took a long time, took a lot of hard work, that I found a way to do my thing, and now Hollywood has kind of appreciates what my thing is. But I wasn't trying to work my way into their game, because at that time they didn't really want my game or games like mine. You know, there was only a few Black people making films in Hollywood, and it's really just now, I would argue. It's really just now with Netflix and Amazon and Apple and these new opportunities that have opened up in the last, you know, 5-10 years, that that Black folks have really gotten a chance to really kind of do their thing in Hollywood. So in that sense, it's a great time to be a filmmaker. It's a great time to be an actor. It's a good time to be a writer. All of that. But it's also, you've got to be really good at it. And even though the doors are more open, you've got to work really hard to really enhance your skills. But you know, it's a good time right now. It's a lot better than it's ever been. You know, I worked with Duvall on my film, The 24th, and a big part of the movies I make are movies about this kind of hidden, buried Black history. And that's always been a big thing for me. I should probably tell you a little quick story here. I was thrown out of high school during some riots in the 1970s. And yeah, I was a good kid. I was never in trouble. I've never done anything wrong, really, but the school was a very racist school. And so we were going to blow a restroom up with a Molotov cocktail. Some buddies of mine, myself.
Wow.
They had kicked out about 20 Black kids, all buddies of mine, and most of those guys never came back to school. And I remember as a kid laying in bed at night thinking about how those dudes were never coming back. And one buddy of mine, in particular, his name was Fred. His mother had been murdered. She had been brutally butchered, and her body was found out at this lake. And Fred was super talented cat as far as I was concerned. But you know, the school had no respect for Fred. His mother was murdered, and never tried to help this cat. And when they threw him out, it just really was kind of the last straw for me. So we decided to do something really stupid. We were going to blow this bathroom up with this Molotov cocktail. And some of my other buddies got caught. And they said, who's behind this? And they said, Kevin Wilmot. So they go to my locker and they found the Molotov cocktail.
Oh, man.
So they bring me into the principal's office. And the vice principal walks in. He says, do you play sports? And I said, no, I don't play sports. And the vice principal walked right out. And I could tell if I had played sports, I would have been a Negro of some worth to him. But since I didn't, I was basically worthless. And the principal came in, he laughed in my face. He was probably the most racist man I've met. I met some really racist people being in Kansas. But he was probably one of the worst. He laughed in my face. He enjoyed destroying Black kids' lives. And so, fortunately, I worked on something called the CETA program, which was a program that helped poor kids to get jobs in the summertime. And I worked at this Catholic cemetery. And we cut the grass and you know, straighten the tombstones up and stuff at the cemetery. And the man there liked me a great deal. He helped me get into the Catholic school, and a priest took me under his wing and encouraged me to go to college, and that's how I got to college. And so I'll cut to the chase of that story. So 30 years later, I'm in my office at Kansas University. At this time, you know, I've become a pretty successful filmmaker. And this guy came into my office, and this white guy, he's telling me, you know, he's part of this this adult education, and he's really kissing me up, talking about how great my movies are, blah, 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 blah. And so he's talking to me, and then he says, now you grew up in Junction City, didn't you? And I said, yeah, I grew up in Junction City. He said, you know, I grew up in Junction City too. You know, my dad was the principal of the high school in the 1970s. Uh-oh. Very turbulent time. And his father was the man that threw me out of high school. And I had been telling this story to my friends about this racist white man who threw me out of school for 30 years. And here his son was in front of me, and I had the opportunity to tear him apart about his redneck racist daddy. But I didn't do it. Because in the end, success is the best revenge.
Yes, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
And I love telling that story because things always come back around like that. And life is very circular. And so you've got to just, you know, try to do the right thing the best you can. Try to do the things you're trying to do for the right reasons. I'm working on a script about Arthur Ashe right now. And Arthur Ashe was, you know, great tennis player. And one of the things he said was that, you know, that basically that life is not about the urge to surpass others, but life is the urge to serve others. And he was a great example of that. And that's why what you guys do with this program is great. And when I was in a program like this when I was in high school, it was called the Upward Bound program. And all of those things that you don't know how much these these messages that are out in the world, you don't know how much they kind of stay with you until you get a little older. But anyway, maybe Duvall, maybe we could open up to some questions, comments from folks now.
Brother, thank you so much, man. That's wow. Even Brother Sean Holland stayed on the call to hear you, as you can see in the chat. Gentlemen, mentees, mentors, anybody got any questions and/or comments? And you should have.
I'm gonna just say, I congratulate you with a lot of patience, because I probably would have smacked the crap out of him. Just being honest.
Do you know where we can find your movies?
Yeah, most of them you can find on Amazon. Some of them are on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And the 24th is on Amazon Prime. A movie called Jayhawkers. Jayhawkers is about Will Chamberlain when he played for Kansas University. And in fact, the end of the big climax at the end of that film is the big, what they consider that game, one of the greatest basketball games ever played. They played North Carolina in the NCAA finals. And so anyway, check that out if you can.
Okay, thanks.
And I'll tell you guys, I purchased, the last one I got was Confederate States of America. It's hilarious. Oh my God. And I'll say this and I'll let somebody else talk. Now I understand why your films are, because of your history and your background. Because I've been trying to figure out, I just figured maybe just like making black movies, but experience, she experienced. So who else? We got till 11:30, guys. We want to hear from you. I mean, this is an honor.
I actually have a question. You said you met his son, or you met the principal's son later on in life, and you said you didn't tell him about his dad. If you were to tell him about his dad, what would you actually have said?
Oh, that's a great question.
Great question.
I would have told him how many people that his dad, how many lives his dad destroyed. The thing about, when you're your age and you're vulnerable, and so many people that he destroyed their lives, they were vulnerable in various ways. They didn't have necessarily good home lives. They didn't have, they might have struggled with certain educational difficulties. And so, being in school was already difficult for them. And then when someone is out to really kind of get rid of you, it makes it that much harder to succeed. And this guy, his job was, he felt his job was to control black kids. And that was the real reason why they were so racist. It was all about controlling black people. And that's kind of the problem that we still have today in general. That's why George Floyd was murdered. George Floyd was murdered because the police, the bad policemen out there, not all policemen are bad, obviously, but the bad policemen out there, they feel like they have the right to go so far as to kill black people in order to control them. That's why his knee is on his neck. And one of the things when I talk about that George Floyd murder, I always say that if that had been a dog that he had his knee on, someone would have intervened and said, "Get your knee off the dog's neck. You can't do that to a dog. Get your knee off his neck." A bystander would have came in and bum rushed the policeman and made him get his knee off of that dog's neck. But we give this, we've been programmed to give this power over to police to think that they have the right to maybe murder someone like this. And no one intervened, even though we all saw him being murdered right before our very eyes. And so that's, I guess, going back to your question again, that's what I would have told him, that that his father destroyed a lot of people's lives, and that I didn't know if his father was alive or dead at the time, but I would have probably, if he had been alive, I would have probably said, you need to go tell him that if he hasn't figured it out now, which I'm sure he never did figure it out. Maybe he did. Life is such a weird journey. But more than likely, he never figured it out. And more than likely, he died just as racist as he was when he was destroying folks' lives.
Wow. Brother Kevin, great question, and thank you for that. If you look in the chat, you have 3 questions there. I did co-host, your co-host, so can you see the chat?
Let me see it here.
There's one from Amari. During your filmmaking career, what was your favorite one making?
The 24th was really great. That was probably the biggest budget film I've ever got to direct. And plus that as Duvall knows, I mean, I've tried to make that film for a long time. 20 years I've been trying to do it. And anytime you make a Black history film, it's very, very difficult to make. Hollywood, even now with doors opening up a lot more than they ever have, Hollywood isn't running down the street to make those kind of movies. So that movie, and then I have another little film you can watch on Amazon Prime. It's called Destination Planet Negro, and it's a comedy, but all my movies are kind of satirical. I'm making some kind of political, social points. And that movie is about Black folks in 1939. They're so frustrated with the way Black folks are treated, they decide to build a rocket ship and go to another planet. And George Washington Carver creates a rocket fuel with the peanut and sweet potato. And they take off to go to Mars, but end up going through a time warp, end up here today with a Black president, Obama being president.
Oh, wow.
And so it's about kind of how far we've come and how far we need to go. I made that film. Everybody worked on it for free. I made that film for $7,000.
Wow.
And I mean, so check it out. I knew that no one would give me any money to make this film, so I never asked permission. That's what I mean about asking permission. When you want to do something, you just got to go find a way to do it. Find a way to do it.
Right. Well, a couple of remarks here. Let me see from Zion. He said, love the movie The Five Bloods. Very emotional. Yeah, Paul was my dude. I like guys like him. Jeremiah Holbrook said, I can relate to you, Mr. Wilmot. James Corp said, Trey Byers, he is a close friend of yours. I'm pretty sure he is because he was in.
He was one of my students at Kansas University.
I remember y'all saying that on set. Let me say this real quick before I get to these questions, guys. The 24th out of all the movie sets I've been on was the best. And I'm not saying it because Mr. Wilmot is on this call. I told him this there. It was so relaxed. He made it very comfortable and it was very emotional for me. And it was pretty hard one scene with the fight scene between I was gonna say Mo, I forgot his character. When the captain came through and I'm gonna teach you niggas, and just that guy when he kept every time that guy would come through, because we shot that probably, I don't know, 6-7 times. I'm like, this guy is saying this word nigga too freely and easy. It was tough. I'm not out because I never seen it on set, but anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway,
well, that's the thing. I mean, one of the things I feel very fortunate about is that if you can find the thing you want to do in life and you love it, you really don't work for a living. I mean, that's the thing that you should all be trying to find, is try to find that thing that you truly love to do. And then you don't mind getting up and going to work in the morning. You don't mind spending long, long hours. I mean, I worked on a movie for 9 years for free. I wasn't making any money making that film. I was just trying to find a way to complete it. And, but I didn't mind because I loved it so much.
Wow. From Oz Cunningham, one of our members, what would you suggest that up and coming young Black filmmakers do to enter into the industry?
Yeah, well, you gotta make a film. You gotta make a film, and you know, the thing I learned, and everybody that I've ever seen really that gets a shot at directing or writing or really anything, acting, you know, it goes back to that thing about not waiting for permission. You know, you have to find a way to tell your story. If you're not a writer, go find someone who is a writer. And that's called producing. Producing is producing the things you need to make the film. That's what producing is. Just think of it in those simple terms, you know? And so if you're an actor and you're looking for an opportunity, go to where people are making films, go to your buddies who are making films, find people who are making films and say, hey man, I'm an actor. I'm trying to get some experience. I'm willing to work for free. Let me be in your film. Let me help. If you're a writer, then write the script, and then find a way to help get it made. If you're a director and you're trying to find a way to get your film made, then you know, if you write the script yourself. If you can't write, then find someone who can write. You've got to be real honest about your abilities. Don't let ego get in the way. If you kind of know what you're good at, and more importantly, what you're not good at, that's really, really, really important in life period, is kind of knowing what you're really good at and what you're not so good at, and then get the things that you need help with, be honest about it, and get people to help you with those things. You know, movies it takes a lot of people to make a film. And so you've got to do a lot of collaboration. And then the activism that I did when I got out of college really helped me with getting people to work for me in my films, because the script is the thing that, without a script, the script is the blueprint to make the film. Without a good script, you really can't make a good film. So if you've got a really good script, then you can get others to usually come and help you with your cause of making the movie. And so in that sense, it's a real communal effort. That's why I would just go get my buddies to do those plays I'm talking about. That same thing applied to when I decided to try to make films. I had to go get my buddies and go make films. And that's why, Duvall talked about the kind of atmosphere we created on the set. That atmosphere, I think I learned from really needing the help of others and appreciating others in helping me see my vision come into a reality. And so that's I mean, that in the end, you've got to make your film. So try to find a way to make your film, and try to find a way to tell your story, and try to, and be honest about who you are, and try to find your voice. I mean, having your voice come through your film is really important, because that's what Hollywood is really looking for. They're looking for unique voices. So when you tell your story, you're not trying to really be somebody else, you're trying to do your thing. When you do your thing well, that's a good way to break through.
Okay. Look, guys, out of respect for time, there's some, I won't take any more questions. Let me see. Brother Brandon Daniels is last question. We're extending just a little bit. I mean, how often do we get to talk to somebody who won an Oscar? For real? Real quick, give us a real quick answer, because again, I'm respecting your time, Brother Kevin.
No, it's all good.
One of our members, he says, what was your inspiration for The Only Good Indian?
So The Only Good Indian is about the Native American boarding schools. And in Lawrence, where I live, the Haskell Indian Nations University was Haskell Industrial Institute. And those boarding schools, those Native American boarding schools, were designed to make Native Americans assimilate into being white people. And the motto of those schools was kill the Indian and save the man. That was the motto of the school. So their job was to remove Native American culture from Native Americans and turn them into white people as much as they could, so they could assimilate into white society. And so that's really kind of where that movie comes from. And that's why the whole story of that movie is about a Native American who's lost his Native American self and and finds a boy who's desperately trying to hold on to his Native American self, who escapes from one of those boarding schools.
That's good stuff. Real quick, last two real fast. Brother Bernard Felder says, thank you for all your work. Are you involved with the HBO proposed series Confederate? I'm sure it seemed to be a takeoff on your movie.
Yes, it was. In fact, a little quick story. So one morning, the New York Times gives me a call and says, I think these are the guys that created that show with the dragons and stuff on HBO. What is that show called?
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones. Yeah, there you go. The Game of Thrones guys had kind of taken the premise of my movie Confederate States of America and were turning into the show Confederate. And so I talked to Spike because Spike had helped me with my movie CSA, and but I think that show isn't happening anymore. I think they found out that you really have to know what you're doing when you take on something like the Confederacy and you take on, slavery in the modern world. I think these are two white guys. I don't think they really knew what they were doing. I think the backlash, they got a lot of bad backlash, and put it that way. So I think it kind of killed their
Great question. Let me see, Brother Reggie Grant, Brother Wilma, which do you enjoy more, being a filmmaker or a professor at KU?
Oh, it's all the same thing for me. KU helped me to make a lot of my early films, and that's the thing about education. I think, one of my professors that I had at NYU said you should always teach a little bit, and KU helped me to make CSA. I got tenure at KU from making my film CSA, and I became a full professor with Chirac, and so that relationship with education and being a working filmmaker is not a bad relationship to have.
Nice. And last one from Brother Brandon Daniels. Do you see a trend of Black filmmakers leaving the Hollywood status quo and starting independent studios with the help of new avenues available with Amazon, Netflix, and others?
Yeah, I think Tyler Perry did a great thing with that, and Spike has his own thing as well, and there are other people that have been able to kind of do that. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I have my own thing out here. I mean, it's you try to find a way to build your little community of folks, of resources to tell your story. And that's what people are kind of doing now. It's still, movies cost a lot of money. I mean, the average movie now is like $200 million or some crazy thing. And so movies cost a lot of money, but we've made a lot of progress. We still got a ways to go, but we've made a lot of progress in trying to be more independent.
Brother Wilma, thank you so much. This has been an honor.
Hey, man, thank you so much, guys.
You blessed my life twice, back-to-back years. I appreciate it.
All right, guys.
I'm sure the mentees, gentlemen, unmute yourself. Let's clap it up for Mr. Kevin Wilma. We so appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Let's stay strong.
Yeah, you know I'll be in touch, begging for a job.
Hey,
so.
Hey, brother. Bye-bye.
All right, gentlemen. All right, Brother Roll, I'm going to make you the co-host, and then somebody else share their screens, let me know. But gentlemen, this is Relate, and here's Dr. Roll. And Dr. Roll, if you and you guys will introduce yourselves and floor.
Okay. Good morning, or almost afternoon here, everybody. Last week, last time I spoke, I was giving a whole presentation on my profession and the football background and how I went into medicine, surgery. I don't know if you all are familiar, but the last name Roll, the origin comes from the Bahamas. All of us originally from the Bahamas. And there's several my relatives, mostly cousins, my brother, we all played football on the college and professional levels, but also have had the opportunity to see success other on the professional and athletic stage, but also in other business and ventures as well. So some of the guys can join, but I do have two of my cousins here today who will be speaking on their backgrounds, offer you all advice and insight, and then also telling you, what their experience has been. So I'm going to introduce my cousins Jamal Roll and Rob Roll, the fourth Quasi Roll. So you guys join me in welcoming my two cousins that's going to speak on today. Thank you.
So is it my shot now, Doc?
Yeah, go ahead, Jamal. Go ahead. You start it up.
Okay. Hey, fellas. Thank you, Dr. Rowe, for even having me. Hope all is well with you guys. I'm Jamal Rowe. I'm a professional athlete. Played in the NFL for 5 years, and I'm currently in the CFL right now. And just transitioning a little bit out the game by building a gym. I'm entering year 9, and so I'm thinking about life after football, and I want to continue to bridge the gap with the younger guys, with the younger players, to help them understand what it takes to get to the next level. Understanding the work ethic, understanding what you have to do on and off the field, and just the character that you want to carry yourself with, to make sure that you don't burn any bridges along the way. And so I came out 2013. I was undrafted by the Buffalo Bills. I played at a very small school, so didn't get a lot of looks, but all I could really do was just put my best foot forward. And so I bounced around a little bit throughout my career. I had a stint with the Green Bay Packers, Houston Texans, and the Baltimore Ravens. That's where I spent most of my time. And along the way, I just learned a lot of lessons. I learned that, every day you have to wake up and really give it your best, because it's somebody that's always wanting your spot. And so carrying that forward, transitioning out the game, that's kind of the mentality and the mindset that I have, is that every day, you want to give it your best. You want to treat it like it's your last, regardless of if it's a conversation, if it's a workout, if it's, something that I'm doing in the classroom. You want to make sure that you're giving it your best, because that's really all you have is the present. And so we just want to take full advantage of the opportunity we've been given. I know with me carrying the last name Roll, I've seen a lot of guys pave the way before me. And so I know that what I'm carrying on my back is bigger than me. And I know that those guys paved the way and they bridged the gap for me to even have an opportunity to play in the NFL. And going forward, I just want to make sure that I'm bridging the gap and that I'm paving the way for the young boys like yourself are able to, hopefully achieve that goal. It's very hard, very tough. And so that's why I'm very emphasizing on just giving every day your best, because, it's the part of the 1 percentile. And to be a part of that, you got to do what the other 99% isn't doing. So it's very important that you work extremely hard, even during the days that you don't feel like it. That's when your discipline and your humility really has to kick in the best. So I wish you guys the best. Now that we're in this Zoom call, you can always get my contact information. I'm located in relatively Charlotte, North Carolina. So if anybody is close, looking for any tips, anything that I can do, share on my end, I'm all forward to helping you guys out. And I appreciate you guys that were speaking before. I heard a lot about you guys in terms of the acting career and the building the movie industry, and that's amazing. So congrats to you guys, and for the younger guys, looking forward to seeing you guys to get to this level as well.
Cuz, I have a quick question. You had mentioned the work ethic. Can you tell them more about the school you attended and how you went undrafted? You had mentioned the whole work ethic and that 1% that makes it professionally.
Right.
Let these students know your personal journey on how you went from small school, NFL, undrafted, the whole logistics of that, as far as like the agent and your training, then also what you're doing now with Average and Savage.
Right. So when I first came out, Catawba College, which is located in Salisbury, North Carolina, this is a very small school. It's Division II. Didn't get a lot of looks. It wasn't like we were winning. So no scouts they weren't obligated to come and check me out. But fortunately, we had a couple scouts come through the town my junior year, and they did a few IQ tests and a little like pre-draft test. I ran a 40 my junior year. It was like a junior pro day, and I was just so happened to be available, to be healthy, and I ran a good time. They seen that I had a few tangibles that could possibly play on the next level, and so they kept in touch. And going into my senior year, I lost my mom, and that was kind of like another fuel to the fire, which was going to like propel me to really give it my all and to finish the season how I wanted her to experience it. So I gave my senior season everything I had. I trained the hardest, I would say, and I just had a mindset that, you know, if I was good enough, they would find me. I kind of just left it in God's hand. At that point, I just had all the faith that I never had a vision that I couldn't make it. It was also about how I seen things, and I felt like that was important. The things that I used to surround myself with in terms of pictures, quotes, friends, my environment, it was all positive, and it was all pushing me to really get to where I am today. And so I surrounded myself with that on a daily basis, and I kept out of trouble, really didn't party like that. And I was just focused on just really trying to get to the next level. And nobody really told me that, you know, coming from a small school like that was going to be as tough as it was. I really didn't see it as a tough obstacle. I just looked at it like, you know, if any other guys can do it, I can do it too. And so my senior year, the season didn't go well. All my coaches got fired. And so I needed a place to train, and I was hosting a recruit, and just so happened his uncle was a marketing agent, and he gave my film to an agent, and that was a blessing in disguise to get in touch with an agent who was on a bigger level, because he was representing guys that were already in the league and had, you know, multiple people from bigger schools already in the league, and so he had a kind of good rep, and so he took me in, took a risk, you know, put me on his team, joining with me. And I went to train out in Dallas, Texas, and trained my hardest, prepared, and I test well when I had a pro day at Wake Forest. I did really well there. And draft day, you know, I got a call on the 6th round from the Bills. They were saying that, you know, if I didn't get if I wasn't chosen then they were going to definitely take me undrafted, and they kind of kept their word. And so I started there, and you know, 8 years later, man, I'm still continue to just play the game, to, you know, give hope to these guys, and to build these younger guys that are coming up before me, just to let them know that, hey, man, it doesn't really matter where you start. It's about, you know, the whole process and what you're doing in between it, and about your finish. And so that's what got me to, you know, approaching year 9 right now in the CFL. I'm currently playing with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And first 2 years went really well. The third year was canceled due to COVID. And so I'm under contract again, and I'm looking forward to another season. Honestly, my goal is just trying to get to year 10, which is a huge milestone, playing in a professional league. And so trying to get to year 10, but during this downtime, you know, you ask yourself, if football wasn't around, what would you really like doing? And so I found that my calling, my passion was, you know, just helping guys who want to make it to the NFL, who really want to have a football career and make a career out of it. I find it that I had a passion, just, you know, filling these guys up with words and advice and recommendations, doing the best I could to make sure that I gave them everything they needed to get to where I am and to get further. And so that led me to training these guys, just being local in the community. And these guys seeing me work out on a daily basis. They were, you know, offering to join me. And so I created a business out of it. And so now I'm a personal trainer, and I have a brand name, which is Average the Savage. And I don't really have a mantra yet, but I have a Bible scripture, which is Romans 12:2. And it's based upon just your mindset, right? and everything starts from within. So if you really want to get there and get to your ultimate goal, it starts with the renewance of your mind. And so you got to start surrounding yourself, building yourself, and giving yourself the tools that you need mentally to be confident enough to have the confidence to go out and really showcase who you really are. And so Average the Savage is a performance and fitness brand. And we're just living by the renewance of the mind, just trying to get these guys to understand that it's not all physical. It's a lot to do with your whole mental capacity. So we just want to make sure that they're mentally sharp so they'll be able to endure all the adversity that's going to come, all the challenges, because it's not going to be an easy road. And so I just want to help these guys know that from your mental standpoint, it needs to be strong because you're going to go through a few trials and so you need to have that mental strength to endure it all. So I have a gym now currently training guys who are in college, high school, from really from elementary all the way up to the NFL. And so that's where I want to kind of transition and start bridging the gap.
Because that's incredible, and I appreciate you offering that insight.
For sure.
Anybody that wants to be trained a few of his workouts, let's just say they're no joke. It'll definitely get you right. Rob, are you on? Are you on?
Yeah, I am still here. I just have a very, very quick call for work. Give me like 1 minute, please.
Okay.
All right.
Jamal, what would you say would be your biggest influence? Who do you think was the most influential in helping you to achieve your goals and exceed any level of expectation that, or restrictions or obstacles that might have been placed on? Who do you think was the biggest influence?
Wow. I have a few along the way because it was just different chapters of my life where people were just very vital at certain points. And so when I first got introduced to football, I grew up single parent home in a tough neighborhood, in a tough environment. And so, the coaches used to come through and look at us playing in the backyards and the projects and stuff. And it was one coach in particular, man, who really, took me under his wing and made sure that I wasn't getting in trouble. His name is Quentin Rogers. He was my middle school coach. And he kind of just kept me out of trouble, man, and kept me with him. And he built me up as a man. He put the football in my hand and told me the possibilities of what could happen if I stayed focused and made the right decisions. And so that's who ultimately introduced me to football. But along the way, my mom, I would say, would be a big influence. She would always tell me just to do me. She would say, "Do you" before every game, which would symbolize of like you being you, not no one else, trying to be no one else, don't try to compare yourself to anyone else, and whatever happens, just be you. And so that was a huge impact early on. And during the NFL, man, with me bouncing around from team to team, I always see these older guys who, have made it so far. And so when I first got there to the Bills, Stephon Gilmore was a household name at the time, where he still is with the Patriots. But I looked up to him and look how he took care of business on a day in and day out basis. And so he made an impact on me. And then when I went to Green Bay, the whole secondary room, a lot of guys were undrafted. And so they welcomed me with open arms. They made me feel like I wasn't out of place. And they told me that, they didn't discriminate in terms of a draft pick or an undrafted guy. If you can play, you can play. And so I was able to relate to those guys a lot more because of the undrafted situation. And so that was a huge impact. Mike McCarthy, which is the head coach now with the Cowboys, would just, fill me up day in and day out, give me the tools that I needed in terms of just watching the older guys like Charles Woodson and Tramon Williams and, just watching Aaron Rodgers as well, watching him take care of business. And then when I got to Houston, I watched how J.J. Watt took care of business. And during the time that was during his back-to-back defensive MVP years, and just watching him on a daily basis take care of business off the field and also on the field and be able to manage all the marketing side of it made me feel like, you know, it was possible. Everything that I was trying to achieve was possible. It's never too much. And the work ethic that you needed to have to be a top caliber guy. And during the CFL, I kind of had learned everything along the way. So I tried to implement everything that I learned along the way and try to create my own mode of being a leader. And that's what got me to where I am now. Appreciate you. That was a great question.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So you can see Jamal is a true success story. You know, he mentioned everything as far as the work ethic that it took, you know, all the challenges he had to get through and his influences. I'm gonna have Rob now chime in and you know, tell you his story. And one question that came in the chat from Jamal was kind of talking about plan A, plan B, which Jamal kind of, you know, hinted at as well. So Rob, I'll let you go ahead and tell your story.
So yeah, I'm a real big family guy from South Jersey. Football has obviously been a very big part of our experience, but honestly, like my grandmother's an educator and my aunt, my dad's sister is a teacher as well. So like when I was younger growing up, like football and sports and stuff was like primary. It took the primary focus, but like from the very, very start of it, I always knew like if I didn't take care of what I had to take care of in the classroom, like it wasn't going to be any football. Like I live in South Jersey. It's like farmland down here. We ride four-wheelers and dirt bikes a lot. Like I got my first four-wheeler when I was like 5. And like literally like probably like I think it was like 2nd grade or something like that. Like I got a C on my report card. My dad's like, all right, like give me them keys to that bike. You know what I'm saying? And that was very, very early on to the point where I knew like I'm not going to the beach in the summer if my report card was bad for that spring semester, or I'm not going to be able to ride my four-wheeler. Or so football and sports, like in track and basketball, what I played when I was younger as well, they always like shaped kind of the structure wise, but I knew if I wasn't taking care of what I had to in the classroom, like that stuff didn't matter. So once I learned that early on, like I took school very serious to the point where like I just got it quick. Like school was never like really hard for me. I always got good grades, but I just always knew like the type of kid, like I said, my grandmother was a teacher and she was like teaching 6th grade on the other side of school. Like when you guys get in trouble, like you might be able to get away with it or get home. Like, no, my grandma's gonna pull me over into the classroom and anybody else getting beatings in school, stuff like that. So I just knew like very, very, very early on, like education is something that I can't play with. I understood the importance of it. Like I said, my grandmother and aunt were both teachers. But once it got to like football, and I got to like progress on and really see like the opportunities that were going to be there. Like I stopped playing basketball in 8th grade or so. Started to focus primarily on football and track just to get my speed right in the off season. And as high school progressed, like it just kind of started to click for me. I went to Delsey. It's like a small like Group 3 school here in South Jersey, so it's like right in the middle. We have 5 groups, and we went back-to-back championships my junior and senior year. Ended up committing to Villanova prior to my senior year. So like when a lot of other guys around my way, they were like going, to Pitt, Rutgers, Temple, all the other like bigger FBS schools kind of in my area. I still didn't really even have any offers. Monmouth was my first offer, their FCS. I only ended up getting a handful of offers, and I think UMass might have been my only Division I like FBS offer. Everywhere else was like smaller Division I AA programs like Villanova, William and Mary down in Virginia, Delaware. So once I kind of started to see and understand, all right, this might be kind of more realistic expectation of where I may end up, being able to pursue, and continue my football career. It kind of put like a chip on my shoulder, honestly, early, because like South Jersey, it's like football is everyone plays together from midgets all the way up. Once you get to high school, it kind of divvies up into each group. But when I was, my senior year going to Dusty and stuff like that, like everyone else around me that I had been balling with my whole life, they had already had the offers that they were already committed and verbally committed to big programs, and they put like a chip on my shoulder. It was like, yo, I've been at every camp with these boys. I've been balling with them my whole life. Why don't I have the offers that I have, or why am I not able to go play football at, Rutgers or wherever, literally whatever you have it. So once I kind of understood that, and as I mentioned, education was always so big to the point where to my family, it was never like it was never like to make that type of compromise. Like once it got to school and we were like, actually, I started to get a couple offers and we're like, all right, now you're going to be able to go to college for free. It's like, all right, well, I understand you're going to be able to go to college for free, but it would be like a lie to say like, oh, I knew, the entire process playing high school football. I knew the entire time. I can't wait to go play FBS football somewhere. It's like, no, it's like every single day, kind of to Jamal's point where he was speaking on having to prove yourself. It's like, if you want to go play football somewhere, you don't got it made. You know what I'm saying? You're not a 5-star recruit. You don't got 10 offers. So if you want to get somewhere, you better make sure you're doing that. And then at the same time, I had people around me who would get that type of attention. And I would see coaches walk in and be right back out the room just as fast as they walked in because that person didn't have the grades. And once I realized that was like the icing on the cake for me, because I told you school was primary for me. So once I could get into like a William and Mary, who's a top institution, or Villanova or Delaware, these are all like high prestigious universities academically. And at the time, I think UMass was like, they had won like 2 games in the last like 2 years prior to me getting recruited to them. So I knew like, I'm not about to fall for the bait and just go FBS just to say I went D1. It was like, all right, let's take a look in the mirror and see kind of how that may look for you. So that's when I started to take a realization, like Villanova, right there outside of Philadelphia, is like a really, really big high academic school. And once I knew that, I had my principal actually at my high school ended up playing football at Villanova. He had a short stint in the NFL playing with the Eagles as well. So there was like that kind of pipeline connection, but I never knew like all the way up until like literally until I committed, until I verbally committed in the summer. Like I never knew where I was going to end up, what I was going to be doing. I just knew like what the importances were of where I was looking to go. And as I mentioned, like Villanova was kind of like a no-brainer when it came to the educational part of it, because they're a super, super high academic school. And my experience there was like, it was pretty much the same way. Like I wasn't like a big NFL prospect kind of guy, like the entire time throughout. Like I played as a freshman at corner, and then, got on the field a little bit more as a sophomore, was a first full-time starter for the first time my junior year, in which I had like literally maybe 5-6 guys around me from that 2016 team signed NFL contracts. My DN's with the Chiefs right now. He just won a Super Bowl ring. My linebackers with the Bengals right now, I believe. Two of my O-linemen are signed to active roster right now. So it's like, these are guys that like came in with me, I played with for all 4 years at Villanova, and I see them playing at the next level. But as I mentioned, like I wasn't like a big NFL guy the entire time. So like school was always very good, but I still knew I had to go do internships. I got a network. I have to take my education seriously, because regardless, like once I got to realize what the next steps were, it wasn't like, all right, let's go figure out, how high you're gonna get drafted and let's go have a long, fruitful NFL career. It's like, no, like initially they're like, all right, if you're gonna pursue this and you're gonna take football seriously enough to try to go to the next level, NFL stands for not for long, and they'll be the first to tell you that. So it's like, if you think about get to the NFL, I think the average span is like 3 years or something like that, for the average lifespan of NFL career. So it's like, I know getting there is hard, staying there is even harder, and then excelling and improving yourself even more is, that's just the icing on the cake. But the entire time, as I mentioned, it's like I wasn't a super big 5-star recruit coming out of high school. I wasn't the top NFL prospect in the region. But at the same time, I still had that mindset in my head where, okay, all right, wherever I go, wherever I play, I'm with the best of them. I'm gonna put myself out there and perform the best that I can perform. I'm gonna put myself out there and be able to compete with anybody. If you put me in the classroom with somebody, I'm gonna be the best competitor in the classroom. I'm gonna sit in the front. All my rest of my teammates is half asleep in the back, dozing off, late to class. I'm gonna set the example. I'm gonna come in, be there early, sit in the front, answer questions. My participation grades are high. All the little stuff, to the point where once football actually did stop for me, it was like, wow, like look, all these other opportunities are out there. Not to the point where it's like, dang, what I'm saying? Like, man, football ended for me, or let's quote unquote say ended for me, and you're not really in control of necessarily when you're going to be able to stop or what your next opportunity is going to be. So like I mentioned, I went to Villanova. 2016, we had that really big year. We went to the quarterfinals and the playoffs. We ended up going to play in like South Dakota somewhere. We lost 10-7, I think it was, in the quarterfinals. And I was an All-American that year, led the country in interceptions with like 7 picks. Had set the record. I had 2 back-to-back 100-yard interception returns. So it was like a crazy year. Like it was a crazy year that put me onto the NFL stage. But internally, nothing had changed to the point where it was like, oh, let me go out here and be Superman. It was just like, yo, our defense is clicking. Like I said, I had other dudes that were going to the NFL as well. So it was like just the circumstances of the environment. It's like you gotta if I've been doing all this hard work all this long time and doing the little stuff that nobody else is doing, when all the eyes are on, as Jamal mentioned, he went to a smaller school. He didn't have like the scouts. Like I had like 10, 11 scouts coming to every practice. Like my DN was like 6'8", 285, like 2nd round draft pick to the Chiefs. So they were coming to watch him every day. If you're gonna come watch him every day, you gotta come watch me every day because I'm on the same field as him, playing with him every day. And in a humble way. So it was like, man, look at this opportunity. And then, so like I said, 7 picks that year, did really, really good. Came back from my senior year. We were like 3 games into the season. I was kick returning and I blew my knee out on a kick return. Blew my knee out, tore my ACL, MCL, lateral meniscus, MPFL, everything in your knee that you can mess up, I tore. And it was crazy because like, as I mentioned, I wasn't the whole time saying, oh, I'm gonna go to the NFL, I went to the NFL. It was like, yo, these are the opportunities that are around you. Let's take advantage of all of them. And then however it works out for you, that's God's plan for you. That's how it works out. So I just took everything super serious. If someone called me and said, yo, I got an opportunity, they're looking for a guy to come do whatever, even if it's like a little side job for a weekend, I'm gonna go do it just because I don't know where it might lead me. I don't got nothing better to do. So I'm just taking opportunities, taking advantages and going out and doing stuff. So when I tore my ACL and came back, it was like, yo, like, all right, now I had put myself onto the stage of the National Football League, but I had to kind of restart from ground one. And I'm like, yo, just as fast as I was getting on, it kind of ended for me as well. Cause like, yo, when I came back, I still tested well, still ran gun to 40, still jumped and ran well. But like my 5th year, when I came back from that, it was like, now I'm out here trying to prove to myself and to the world that I could be the superstar again. I'm trying to go out there and have more picks than I ever had. And it's like, it don't work that way. Like that's just not how life works. That's not how the game works. Like so much stuff kind of has to happen right for the situation to be better than it was the first time. Like a lot of stuff got to go right. And then that's when like just with my injury, and then I still came back, still ended up signing an undrafted free agent deal with the Dolphins that year. Got down there, pulled my hamstring really bad. That's when they released me. I came home and did rehab for about 6 or 7 weeks. Once I was like cleared healthy from my hamstring, once I was deemed healthy from my hamstring, that's when they released me, put me on waivers, and my contract wasn't picked up, so I was a free agent at that time. So this was like, I want to say maybe July or so that I was like finally released, like once I was healthy and stuff. But at that point, everyone was already into the swing of preseason. They're about to get into, preseason games and stuff. So it was like initially, like from the very, very start, like I was like behind the 8 ball. Just coming back from an injury when everyone else was like knee deep into the playbook and, getting accustomed to their teams and their coaches. Like I was at home rehabbing. So it just kind of put me back a little bit. And I trained, like I kept that same discipline from July, August, September, October. It wasn't until like October that I was like, yo, like, let me really look in the mirror and see, like, is this what I want to be doing? Like, is this what's best for me? Like, maybe I gotta, so I started networking again, taking job interviews. I took my first job in Philly, doing outside sales, and I was making like $50,000 like base salary before commission for my first job out of college, doing sales in Philly. And I'm like, dad, yo, like this is like the loss for me. Like football didn't work out for me, at that time. Like I was like, man, like what am I about to do? I'm working out twice a day. As Jamal mentioned, like you're gonna keep that same discipline. You're gonna still hold yourself to that same standard. I wasn't drinking, wasn't smoking, not partying, not doing anything when I came home. I'm still focused and beelined on trying to get myself back into the league. But when I get to October, November, and nothing's kind of shaking, it's like, all right, let's look in the mirror and see what options are available to me. And then, as I mentioned, networking, my Villanova degree and taking school so serious, like that transition for me wasn't like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. It's like, yo, like it's lit. Like, bro, if you want to still drive a nice car, if you still want to have all the nice stuff that everybody else got. You don't have to go to the NFL to make it. I got best friends that didn't go to college and they make more than me because they have time in with their job. So it's like, once I started to understand like the bigger picture, it's like, bro, football is like such a big part of my life. It's all over my room. Like I got football stuff everywhere in here, like my helmets, you know what I mean? All the stuff on the wall. It's like football is such a big part of me, but football isn't the only part of me. I got so much other stuff going to the point where it's like, all right, football is done. I'm not in control of that. I don't got nothing else to prove to nobody. I know I'm good. I can watch my highlight tape on YouTube all day long. It ain't going to prove or do nothing for me. I better figure out how to still go afford a nice car, or still go get a nice house, or, you know, provide those nice things. And I know realistically, everybody in this group message and chat, like, we know a lot more people that are successful not playing football than we, you know what I'm saying? Than we know who are successful playing football. As Jamal mentioned, you're like literally 1% of the world that are successful and excel in the National Football League. So that's not no knocker, you know, nothing. It's just like, you know, everybody's journey and everybody's plan and everybody's path is gonna look so different that like you just gotta take it for what it is and always make sure your mental is right to just make sure whenever your phone ring or whenever the door opens for you, you're gonna be ready. Whether someone calls me to go play football tomorrow or somebody calls me to go speak at another event, I'm gonna be ready. Or if someone says, yo, you want, like right now, I'm working at home remotely for a mortgage company doing mortgages and refinancing stuff. I never thought I would be sitting here on the computer on a Saturday, logged in for work, getting paid to be on the computer doing whatever. And it's like, I want to go play football, or I want to go do X, Y, Z, whatever you want to do. You're going to still be able to discipline yourself enough to put yourself in position to do it. But reality hits life hits, you still got to make decisions and make stuff happen however you kind of see it fit. And I'm at a place where like my time away from football, it's allowed me to like start my own brand. I'm trying to get my like a clothing brand going. I have a whole business that I'm trying to start. Like that's he mentioned that's my logo. Like I'm doing all types of artwork now. I just painted this on my wall like maybe a week or two ago. But like the clothes designs, like I draw tattoos and portraits and stuff for people. So it's like all this different creativity and different routes and stuff. I'm just like, yo, I got dogs. We're about to have a whole kennel. So it's like, oh, and all this different stuff that you can get going. It's like, but football did so much for me that like my whole brand, everything, I'm like my forever grateful. That's what my brand is. Like, regardless of how it go, regardless of the circumstances, like I'm going to be forever grateful for what football did to me, for the relationships that it built, for the doors that it opened, for me knowing like how important to take my education to the point where it's like, it's like me, I don't even want to say stepping away from football because it wasn't like my decision. It wasn't up to me. Like if you want to pay me all that money to go keep doing something I've been doing for 24 years, like I'm gonna do that with my eyes closed. But at the same time, like I had to be prepared and ready to go and do different endeavors and still do them to the best of my ability. To if I was a 2-time captain at Villanova and I got signed to the Dolphins, if I'm working for this mortgage company, I'm gonna be the best mortgage person y'all got. I don't care if I've been here for 4 weeks or 4 months. When it's time to get that raise or stuff, whatever, like I'm hustling. Whatever the case may be, I'm gonna keep hustling and I'm gonna keep making it, figuring it out, and keep building relationships and connections because that's really all it's about. Long story short, like without going on that crazy rant, long story short, like it's all about, you know, the opportunity that you take and the connections that you build that's even going to put you in a position to succeed. Like right now, you know, Jamal's still signed to a CFL team, but if somebody said, yo, I'll pay you, you know, the same amount of money that somebody's getting paid, like a Pat Pete, a 10-year vet. If I could give Jamal the same salary that I'm giving Pat Pete in the NFL, but I want Jamal to go open up this gym or I want Jamal to go do whatever, that's when you're gonna have a decision like, oh, it was never about football. It was never about this. It's about what you want to do as your passion and like what you can go and get back to. So if you want to make money, it's 1,000 ways to make money. It's a million ways to make money. You know, if you want to be famous, it's a million ways. So whatever you're out there looking for, you got to find the best route to get to where you want to go. And that's just kind of how I seen it. And like I said, regardless, when the phone ring, you gotta be ready to make it happen regardless.
Ready to roll.
Ready to roll. Literally, you gotta be ready to roll at all times. Like literally.
Let's take questions from the kids.
No, I really appreciate that. That's a great story. Duval, I'm gonna let you take over as far as any questions or how you want to wrap up. But I appreciate, Rob, that was very enlightening how you broke everything down and the opportunities that you've been presented and how you taking charge of your story. So I appreciate you. Duval, I'll let you take over as far as any wrap up or anything you want to do there. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Duval. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate
All right, thank you, brother. And if y'all want to stay with us, that's in fact, please stay with us because I'm gonna give the mentees a few minutes to put questions in the chats. Then we're gonna end it with the words that Congressman Clyburn sent to us specifically for us on this day. So that's how we'll be done by 12:30. Real quick, Reggie Grant. So Rob, you mentioned your grandmother instilled in you early on the importance of your education. Can you explain to the mentees why you felt it was important to sit at the front of the class while in school? Well, that's me right there.
Yeah, that's big because like you don't really think about it until you get to like the college level where you see like it really unfortunately it plays into like just a stereotype of being a black male athlete in a predominantly white institution, knowing I'm probably the only one in here that looks like me, talks like me, comes from where I come from. So it's like literally understanding that you have to hold yourself to a higher standard just like, unfortunately, that's what it is, but you have to hold yourself to that standard to even give yourself an opportunity. So as I mentioned, like, it's not really like, it's like, it really opened the doors from when it came to like connecting with my professors and knowing what opportunities were out there, as well as like just building that rapport with them to the point where they're going to give you that benefit of doubt if they're grading your papers, or if, you know, because when I first got to Villanova, like, bro, it was really like that transition of just like 6 a.m. workouts and you got a 10 a.m. lift and your professor don't care if you're coming from football and your football coach don't care that you got to go to class. It's like, you better figure out how to make it work. So if you got to hustle over there and get to class, by the time you get there, you sweating, you hot, you know, you just want to sit down and sit still for a minute. But it's like, no, I have a standard from home, from my family. I have a standard where I'm not about to come in here and just be in the back, falling asleep. Not like, no, I have to come in here and sit up. Realistically, I got an hour and 15 minutes before I can go back to my room and nap all day anyway. So okay. if I can't give myself and this professor another hour to just be disciplined enough to really take this serious, like you gonna understand, like even when you get to, I don't know where you guys go to school at, but when you start to get like to the higher level of college, whatever, like them people that's sitting next to you, if I'm in the front of the class, my classmate, his dad might be a CEO of some crazy company. The person on the other side of him's dad might own 3 businesses all in your town that you had no clue. But just by me sitting in the front, being alert, talking to them, you know, playing my part, it's going to open way more doors than if you just be the classmate in the back, chilling, you know, walking with your headphones in, head down, hood up, just macking in the back of class, because you're not going to get anything from that. You already know you're going to be breezed through. And then if God forbid, if football stops or whatever you're doing stops, if you blow your knee out, then it's going to be a lot harder to keep the ball rolling at that point than it would have been if you've been hustling the whole time.
That's great. I appreciate that. That's really good, guys. I'm glad you asked that question, Brother Grant, and I really am glad. And that's how I've always been the front class for those reasons right there. And I'll have you, Brother Jamal, have the final words. From Amari, he says, I don't have a question. I just think that both here have amazing mindsets. That's how they roll. It's a whole bunch of roles like that. I'm thinking about changing my name to roll. Look, I was a basketballer. I wasn't trying to play in the football. Y'all hit too hard. Skip that. If you will have a couple of final words, and now the questions are coming in. We're about to wrap up.
I'm gonna say if they want to keep, you can like give them my contact information or my my social
media.
Yeah,
put your information in the chat. So, okay. Brother Jamal, if you answer this question, then we're going to wrap it up right if you answer this question with your final remarks. For Brother Jeff Wynn, what was it like getting an offer from the
NFL? It's definitely a moment that you want to take advantage of. It's a moment that doesn't last long. I actually had to leave school early just to go to pursue that because the opportunity is very small and very short. And so I had to, look at the pros and cons of what I was pursuing, understanding that the opportunity wasn't going to always be there, and try to take advantage of it. And so when I got the offer, it was you had to mature for sure a lot because you're playing with older guys, and it's a big boy game. And so I understood that during the process, the training process, and everything, that I had to mature as a young man to be ready to sit in the room amongst guys who were 10 years older than I was, and to be able to compete at a level that they were at. And so the moment is great. You just got to you got to soak it all in because it doesn't last long. So it's a great moment. It's a great feeling.
God, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate that. We could go on and on, but I know the guys, we've been on since 9:30 and I'm giving guys a little break, but I appreciate you gentlemen taking times out of your days. Young men, unmute yourselves, clap it up for the Rowe brothers. And listen, Jordan Ledbetter just nailed it. He said these brothers are true role models. ROL, you know what? You can brand that. I should just take the
I got one for y'all.
I should go get the
Stay
domain
tuned. I
name
got
now
those.
myself.
Listen.
You know, I'm on it.
Yeah, that's
What's
good
crazy
stuff.
is I have a 501c3, man. My nonprofit, it is called My Role Model Foundation. That's crazy.
Nice. Gentlemen, put your contact information in the chat. Thank you once again. And guys, real quick, I'm gonna share my screen. We have to honor the congressman. I mean, he took the time to put this together for us. So real quick, here is Representative Jim Clyburn, specifically to the 100 black men and the mentees of Greater Charlotte, all right?
Let me congratulate the 100 black men of Charlotte for all of the efforts he put forth.
Please mute yourselves.
Our young people.
I got 1 minute, okay.
I want to congratulate the young people who are part of this effort for coming back week after week, learning, and hopefully getting a better understanding of what our society is all about and what they can do to help make it a better place. As many of you know, I served in the United States Congress. I've represented South Carolina's 6th congressional district since 1993, having been elected in November 1992. Now, when I was elected to represent South Carolina here in the Congress, it was the first African American to be elected from South Carolina in 95 years. There were 8 African Americans to serve in Congress from South Carolina before me. The first one having been elected in 1870. We recently named a room here on the first floor of the Capitol in honor of Joseph Rainey. In fact, on the 12th of December was the 150th year since he was sworn in. And it was fitting for us to name room 150 on the first floor, the Joseph H. Rainey room. Because it was the room that he used to meet in when he served on the Indian Affairs Committee. And this is the room that they held their meetings in. I was proud to be a part of that. But what I'm not proud of is the fact that from 1879 to 1895, there were 8 African Americans elected from South Carolina. The last one, George Washington Murray, left in 1897, and there was not an African American from South Carolina again until I was elected in 1992, being sworn in January 1993. Now, George White, African American, represented North Carolina here in the Congress, and he left in 1901. And so I just wanted to be clear that George Washington Murray was from South Carolina. George White was from North Carolina. And I told you all that to tell you that we must be vigilant in making sure that those things that happened way back yonder don't happen again. I used to teach history, and my students, many of them would often say to me, they didn't understand why we spent so much time talking about things that happened way back yonder. Well, I used to tell them all the time, as I will tell you today, anything that's happened before can happen again. Just like so many African Americans served in the Congress starting in 1870, all the way down to 1897. And then things changed, laws changed, and there were no African Americans in the Congress. Believe it or not, although there are 58, 59 African Americans serving in the Congress today, things could change. And we could once again experience that kind of an effort. A writer named George Santayana, I quote him very often. George Santayana once wrote, "If we fail to learn the lessons of history, we're bound to repeat them." Hopefully we've learned history's lessons, and we will do what is necessary not to repeat those things that were not all that good for us, and to do what is necessary to make sure going forward we prepare ourselves for life. That means getting to know your community, getting to know your country, getting to know each other. Now, I want to say to some of the young people there, you know, I do a lot of commencements, and when I do these commencements, I tend to have one standard message, no matter if it's a junior high school, or high school, or college, law school, or medical school. I always say one basic thing, that we must always remember that adage that was taught to us by our parents and grandparents, and maybe in some instances our guardians, who used to say to us all the time, and I know you've heard it, if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. They didn't say try one more time, or two more times, or three more times. You keep trying until you get it right. I'm an example of that. When I first ran for office in 1970, I lost. I ran again in 1978, and I lost again. I ran again in 1986, and I lost. And a friend of mine said, "What are you going to do now? You know what they say, 3 strikes and you're out." I said to my friend, that's a baseball rule, and nobody should live their lives by baseball rules. Remember, if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. They didn't say try one more time, or 2 more times, or 3 more times. There is no numerical limit on how many times you should try. Just think about that. If I had quit after losing 3 times, I would now not be today the number 3 guy in the United States House of Representatives among the Democrats. And that's what I am today. Why? Because I did not give up. So I'm going to say to all you young people, don't give up. Now, there's one other thing I want to say to you. My dad used to say to me all the time, "Son, the first sign of a good education is good manners." So I want you, in all that you do, show how educated you are. Maintain good manners. There's nothing wrong with saying, "Excuse me, thank you." There's nothing wrong with saying, "Good morning." Good manners, the first sign of a good education. And so let me close by saying that I want all of you to become civically active, not necessarily politically, though I wish all of you would be a part of the body politic in any community that you live or work in. But you should always be involved in the civic activities of your community. And so my last little lesson to you is one that I have passed on to my children and grandchildren. I've said to all of them, no matter what it is that you do, find something else to do for which you're not paid. Everybody expects you to earn your pay. That's what you're supposed to do. But if you really want to get life's rewards, get involved in something that you can do for which you're not paid. You will be surprised how such efforts pay off. I'm a living testimony that they pay off very handsomely. So that is what I call living up to your civic responsibilities, doing for others as you would have them do for you. So congratulations on all that you are doing with this program, and thanks to you, Charlotte, North Carolina's 100 Black Men, for all that you're doing to help mold the future of this country. And that's who and what our young people are. They are, in fact, our future. And hopefully it will be a future of which all of us can be proud. Thank you, and Godspeed.
Gentlemen, oops, let me come out of that. Okay, guys. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, that's
Yes, sir.
that's how we end 2020, gentlemen. We've had some phenomenal speakers today, guys. I'm sure you're full. I hope you took notes. Any final comments from the mentees? Then we'll do mentors, and then Brother Means will have the last word before we end this. Any mentees got any comments? Real quick.
I got something real quick.
All right, make it quick, please. Go ahead.
On behalf of Junior Peace, on behalf of the mentees, we appreciate Mr. LeVar, the speakers, everyone that come out today. 10 out of 10 session. Y'all did a good job. You did a good job. This was fun, entertaining. I think everyone enjoyed ourselves. And I appreciate all you guys for coming out for the good work. Keep up the good work. Guys, let's give them a hand because they deserve it. It was a bang this time, wasn't it?
Thank you for that, man. Thank you.
It's 20 out of 10.
Anybody else?
10.
20 out of 10.